Hi there, Jack Anthony here. I'm really excited because on the 22nd of January, I'm going to get to speak to the men and women of the 704th Test Group at Holloman Air Force Base. Many years ago, 1978 to 80, that's more than 40 years ago, I served in that unit. And two of my former students are there. Captain Tony Alt and Aaron Alt are there, and they convinced their commander that I should be allowed to speak via Zoom or Teams, one of those VTC things, to the unit. And I'm going to be doing that Friday morning next. I'm very excited about it. What you see here is a picture of me on my last mission. And these two fine non-commissioned officers are escorting me behind the helicopter to get doused by a fire engine. That's pretty cool. And then you'll see the little going away gift I got, the Road Runner, and that was cool too. So let's press on and see what I'm going to say to these great folks. So when I was at Holloman, I did flight test engineering duties as a military man, but I also was a mission pilot for the Civil Air Patrol. That was fun, and took on other responsibilities. And then I was Scoutmaster for Boy Scout Troop 147. Master Sergeant Tommy Barron was my assistant Scoutmaster, one of the best outdoorsmen I ever worked with. We had 4 types of test aircraft, and we would put test systems inside these airplanes and take them on flight tests to see how they work. Inertial nav systems, guidance systems, that sort of thing. The C-141, we could fit a lot of things in there, and it was could fly up to 10 hours. The C-130, you'll see a 3-blade prop guy there. That was the 3rd C-130 ever built, and that was my favorite airplane, actually. Then you'll see on the bottom the RF-4. We borrowed an RF-4 from Eglin Air Base, and the Army let us use their UH-1 helicopters. So these were our test bed aircraft. Now, what's inside? What you see here is an illustration of what we roll in the back of the airplane. For the C-141, we could pack a lot of stuff in there. The little red square is a second station. That's where one of our non-commissioned officer crew members could actually fly the airplane from back there and using a camera steer towards photographic points on the ground and take photos for trajectory reconstruction. There was this gray thing was a table where all us officers would sit around and think good thoughts while the NCOs were doing all the work. The green palette was the Cyrus palette, the completely instrumented reference inertial system. That was our reference system. It uses transponders on the ground. The 3 blue things are test palettes we'd roll in, and there'd be operators operating guidance and inertial systems at those stations. So there was a lot packed in this C-141, and we would fly from anywhere from 3 to 10 hours in this guy. It was a lot of fun. Now the C-130, we'd put the Cyrus palette in there and load 2 test systems in there. It was a good workhorse for our flight test missions. So that was our cargo aircraft. Now, the RF-4 was the fighter, and I really had a ball flying in that thing. The blue circle shows you where the nose is. That's where there normally would be a camera, but we loaded test systems in there, 2 guidance or inertial test systems in there. The big green circle, we had a pod on there, which was the Cyrus pod. It was our reference. And it was something that would reach out the transponders on the ground and enable analysts to do the trajectory reconstruction to see how the guidance systems were doing. Finally, the helicopter. The Army was very helpful to us. There'd be a pilot and a flight test engineer, so I would sit left seat. We'd have a small pallet in the back and 2 operators, and they would operate these test systems. And we would fly a variety of routes, testing the system's performance and accuracy. So for the C-141, we'd base out of Holloman Air Force Base. We had north-south routes and east-west routes, and we would do these flight tests and really hit the photo targets and make sure our transponders were coming in so the analysts would know exactly where we were, and then they could tell how the guidance systems were doing. We also had a terrain correlation map area on the White Sands Missile Range. That was a fun profile. The folks went to Alaska. I didn't get to go on that trip. I wasn't there yet, but they did testing of these systems at high latitudes, and they wanted to go up to Fairbanks and Elmendorf. Now, the C-130, it did north, south, and east, west tests, but it was only up for about 3 hours for those. But that little gray track over there in the southwest United States were special test missions that I came up with. Imagine that, I was creative. And we tested some ring laser gyro systems, and we would do different alignment maneuvers and then navigation runs and really collect a lot of data to see how these things operated. So that was a lot of fun. That little C-130 did a great job. For the RF-4, we would head over to Fort Huachuca in southern Arizona and do either air combat maneuvers for a half hour or weapons delivery maneuvers. And let me tell you, 25 minutes doing that is better than any ride at the Disneyland. So it was a lot of fun, and the test pilot and I in the back seat would have a lot of fun. And they would usually let me fly the plane out there. They would do the maneuvers, and I'd fly the plane back to Holloman. So it was a lot of fun. The helicopter missions were fun too. Now, we stayed close to Holloman, but we would do 2-hour east-west or 2-hour north-south, and we would do a navigation cruise mission at low level. Boy, was that wild. We would do certain maneuvers, including stopping over a spot and doing what's called pedal turns. This was to put the navigation or guidance system through its paces so that we could figure out just how good those systems were performing. The Army really supported us. So grateful for that. I was responsible for several projects: standard inertial nav system, terrain correlation system that McDonnell Douglas made. Low cost inertial guidance system was my first project. It was a ring laser gyro. And we even flew something called the correlation velocity sensor, a non-radar height finder that the Navy wanted to have us test. So that was a lot of fun. And I got to design the flight profile, have the NCOs build up the palette, and we'd go flying with great test pilots guiding us along the way, flying the airplane. I had some awesome mentors along the way, including this guy, retired Senior Master Sergeant Paul Chase. He was a staff sergeant at the time, and even to this day, he keeps in touch with me. But when I was a brand new butter bar, I needed a staff sergeant to look after me, and Paul did just that. I was so grateful. My first boss in the Air Force was Nicholas Combs. Here's a picture of us at his daughter's wedding in 2010. Nick was my first boss. He went on to work at NASA, and he helped me do some things down there. So I am very grateful to Nick. He's also a Texas A&M grad, so he's pretty proud of that. Here's a picture of the group a few years after I left, and you'll see I labeled Eileen Bjorkman and Johnny Jackson. Eileen is now the executive director of the Flight Test Center at Edwards Air Force Base. So she's done very, very good in the flight test business. And the gentleman I labeled Johnny Jackson, he was there when I was lieutenant. And to say that guy looked after me is an understatement. My assignment at Holloman helped me with some future assignments. For example, I was a visiting teacher at the test pilot school at Edwards Air Force Base, summer 1984, for 12 Air Force mission payload specialist candidates for the shuttle program, manned spaceflight engineers. So my experience at Holloman helped me land that opportunity where I taught astro. I was an astro teacher at the time. Then later in my career, excuse me, I used my flight test experience to help with the F-15 ASAP program. And that was a lot of responsibility, and my time at Holloman really helped. For the presentation, excuse me, the officers and folks at Holloman wanted me to reflect on my role in the Columbia Shuttle Investigation. So I'm going to tell them about my role on the Accident Investigation Board and also my role supporting Paul and Kathy, two flight directors, and tell some of the things I got to do as the DoD liaison officer there during that very tough time when we were investigating the loss of Columbia. So that's what I'm going to talk to the folks of the 704th Test Group about. I am not going to race through it like I did right now, but I'm hoping you'll get an idea of, one, how much fun I had as a second lieutenant at my first assignment, and two, how people helped me and how these experiences helped me. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video.